Hello, everyone. Good day. I'm going to hit the record. There we go. All right, we're live this morning on WonHeart TV, and I want to welcome you all today. I have a special guest, very dear. This subject is very dear to my heart. I'll explain a little later how it affected me, but I wanted to welcome my dear friend here, Reverend Diann Davisson. Is that how you said? Excellent. How are you doing today? Are you in hot country?
Wonderful.
Hot
Well,
country,
I'm in
right?
Los Osos on the coast, so it's yesterday I even had a sweater on.
Wow. Okay, you're in paradise right now. Not like most of us in California. Well, welcome, Diann. Just a little bit about Diann, Reverend Diann Davisson. She's a clinical certified chaplain, and she's supervisor of CPA, which is the Clinical Pastoral Education program. She was working at the Miller Children's Hospital down in Long Beach, as well as the Long Beach Memorial, as a hospice worker of sorts, and she'll explain, I'm sure, much more about that. I want to go into a little detail about that. And in 2020, she became an advanced certified grief specialist in the grief recovery program. Now, very dear to my heart, and I want to welcome you, Diann, for taking your time out today to talk about this and your upcoming events. You have two of them, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with everybody. Diann, can you share a little more about yourself to people?
Well, thank you. I would love to, and thank you for having this opportunity to have time with you and with your guests. Well, as Joelyn mentioned, I'm a hospital chaplain. I'm not a hospice chaplain, even though I've been trained to do hospice. I do hospice privately for private clients. But how this all started, when I was 24 years old, my identical twin sister died of an inoperable brain tumor. She was here today, gone tomorrow. And of course, my grief is I was very pissed off and angry at God. I could not believe how this could happen. But when I was 24 years old, my relationship with God was this person out there. And of course, I've grown quite a bit from that. And the way I dealt with my grief is I just got really, really, really busy. This is in 1977, so there were no really grief groups for siblings that have lost a sibling. And I got my real estate license, my broker's license. Within 5 years, I'd opened up my own real estate office. But
Oh,
I knew I needed to go back and deal with these buried feelings that I had just buried and kept busy so I didn't have to think about it. And so I found a spiritual community that was able to wrestle with God until I got my answers. And before I knew it, I was taking the classes, and my heart calling was to be a hospital chaplain
oh,
because my sister died in a hospital. Not that the hospital did anything horrible or bad, but I was very, didn't want to have anything to do with hospitals. I didn't want to have anything to do with sick people. I just wanted to stay away from them. But I knew I needed a healing. So I know there was a calling in my heart to become a hospital chaplain.
okay.
Back in the 70s, in order to do that, you had to be either a minister, a priest, a rabbi, something that's been endorsed by a spiritual community. Things have changed since then, though. And I had my dream job at Long Beach Memorial and Miller's Children's Hospital, which is a combination of two hospitals together. I worked there for 7 years, and it's one of those jobs that I would have done for free. I got so much back.
Wow.
During that time of there for about 7 years, I facilitated the adult bereavement groups. And they were very active. They were an open group, so people could come and go as they wanted. They were free. In fact, they were so big, we had to split them up into different groups. And I can remember saying to myself after every group, oh, I love my grief group so much. And I thought to myself, that's kind of an oxymoron. How could I love grief so much? But what I really felt was these people were helping each other. As they listened to other people's stories, they shared their own stories, that we all went along on this journey together. And I could see the hands of the divine working with this group. It wasn't necessarily me, it was people willing to be honest and be vulnerable and to witness other people's stories. So I retired after 12 years. We moved up from, this is down in Orange County where I lived. I worked in Long Beach Memorial, was obviously in Long Beach. Moved up to the central coast of California that I call the heart chakra of California.
Thank you.
Love it up here. And I everything got settled in. And for the first time in my life, I realized that, I changed. There was changes going on in my life, that I had this loss of identity, a loss of purpose. I was grieving. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And that was unusual for me. Fortunately, after a couple of years and through pickleball, I found a spiritual community and in Templeton, and the minister asked me to be her assistant minister. This is in December of 2019. And 2 weeks later, I was facilitating a grief group like I had always done down at the hospital.
Wow.
In this grief group, this woman said, "Diann, have you heard of the purple book called The Grief Recovery Method?" And I said, "No." And here I thought I had the corner on the market when it came to grief.
Oh.
I had read everything, never heard of this book. So I went out, of course, got the book, read it, and to my amazement, it was completely different, as you know, Joelyn, than the traditional grief groups that I had done with Dr. Kubler-Ross's phases of grief or stages of grief, different types of grief, anticipatory, delayed grief, none of that whatsoever. This was a step-by-step action program. So what I did, I started to integrate their method into my
That's okay. Keep going.
into my normal classes. And then I could see, wow, this is what I wanted to do exclusively because I really believed in it. So I took their training to become an advanced certified trainer. And not only am I doing the adult class, but they also have a pet loss class that I do also.
Okay.
And it was just amazing. And this is what I've been doing exclusively. And I'm happy to report that Cuesta College is now offering my grief classes through their community education programs.
Oh, wonderful.
These classes are secular, they're education, they are not religious. Do your spirituality play into that? If that's something you're working with, absolutely.
Right.
But I just want everybody to know that this is open to everybody over the age of 18, and it is not a religious class. Some people ask about that.
Right. That's a good point. Grief doesn't come through a religious aspect, does it? It comes through the many emotions that we are blessed with, basically, to have. And boy, do we have a load of emotions. And I think a lot of the emotions play into it. Do you think they have a part in grief?
Absolutely. And what happens is traditionally we find that we intellectualize our grief instead of feeling our grief. And that's the purpose of this class, is to help us move from the intellect into the feelings, because usually what happens is we bury our grief in our bodies, and we all know that that is not healthy. There's a wonderful bestseller book on the New York nonfiction called Our Body Keeps Score. And we all know the work of, Carolyn Mays, our biology becomes our biography or something like that. And so it's so important to deal with those buried emotions. And we usually bury our grief. How many times I know myself, I'll be at a memorial service and I feel this wave of emotion. I barely know the person I'm there to honor. And I realized, oh my gosh, it's that grief that I had never really dealt with or felt. And here was an opening that those emotions just come up.
Yeah.
And buried grief is really important because so many times, even if you know people that may display signs of being bullies or being having display of negativity, all those kind of emotions, many times that is buried grief that isn't able to be resolved. So it comes out in not healthy ways.
Yeah. Yes, 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 for sure. I'll tell you, my backstory and why I am so passionate about this is in 2006, I had a tremendous amount of loss in 1 year. I'm glad you have the class for animals because the starting of that year in January, I lost my little best friend, Marty, of 18 years in January of 2006. Broke my heart, but she was, a long time on this planet. And then in March, I suddenly lost my sister at 41 to asthma and breathing complications. Then my partner at the time and I had broken up, as well as my brother, 3 months after my sister's death, committed suicide. And then I, along with not having a job, just kind of laid on the floor in a fetal position, so to speak, not asking the question, why was I here? I mean, really, much like yourself. And I was told by my ex I had an anger problem, which led me to the local college here in my area to take an anger class. Why not? I was into it. And the woman spoke of, now at this point, Diann, I had gone to grief support groups through a therapist's suggestion. But I was like sitting there going, I don't want to be supported and be here like a year later. I mean, I've got to get through this and I don't know how. But boy, I'll tell you, when you have your beloveds looking over you, and I really firmly believe that. This woman said she did this and that's who she was, and she was there to teach that anger class. And then she said, and I teach a class called the Grief Recovery Method. And I was like, just the words, recovery? Oh, wow. Can I really recover from this? And sure enough, like that class, she got me in it in like a week. And I'll tell you, I really to this day believe it helped me get through all of that. It was a kickstart. It's one of those things so pivotal that my hat is off to the teacher, Sue Hammer, who moved away. Unfortunately, she was such a gift on our local area. But you guys doing this, it changes you and realizes how you've attached to this grief and how it runs your life, and that in the end it seemed to be forgiveness was a big part of it. Now, I have to tell you, here's my book. This is probably how old it is. It's not purple. But I've told several people about this, and it is a slow process. I remember it was like 8 weeks or something, once a week. I wanted to get through this, Diann, but there's a reason to why it is so. Can you describe why it takes maybe what you think is a long time, which really it's not?
Yeah. Well, what's so different about this grief method, unlike other grief support groups, which all grief support groups are wonderful. They're all good. But what makes this different is the only evidence-based grief program in the world, which means clinical studies were conducted at Kent State University to show and prove their method works. And what makes this different is a step-by-step action program. So each step goes on top of the other to get you to that place of emotional completion. What I like to think about it's like emotional surgery. We want to get in, get it taken care of, and get out.
Right.
And so that's what makes this so different, and what has just has created so much passion in my life to do this and to try to get as many grievers as I can possible to take the class. And it's not just about death and dying, as you mentioned, your pets, your relationship. They tell us there's over 42 losses that we can experience in a lifetime that can create grief that we're not even aware of. Moving, COVID, childhood traumas, loss of identity, like I experienced, loss of passion. I mean, there's just so many that we can think of. And so many times when we do have a significant loss, there's secondary losses that come with that. Just like when families say goodbye to their teenagers as they go off to college, now they have that empty nest. They're grieving too. What am I going to do now? The energy has changed in their home, and they're happy for their kids because they worked so hard to get them there. But now they're dealt with this sometimes a heavy heart.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the other thing that's so interesting about it is how grief sneaks and bubbles up. And I tell this about people in ways. Uh, Not only will you be somewhere, like you said, a funeral maybe, and all of a sudden you will just break down in tears, but it also bubbles up through anger, which I think I was dealing with from, something in my life that I wanted to be a rock star when I was younger. And when that all fell apart, we're not taught how to grieve properly. So what do I do, or what do we do? Stuff it down, jump into life, work, keep busy. Uh, what is there? Then there's the outlets of gambling, they say, sex addictions, alcohol addictions, all these different things to just stay away from grief, and especially our men. I mean, like in my class, I think there was one or two, and I think only one stayed the whole time, and there were nine others of us, and we were all women. Why? What is going on? We need it for our men, don't you think?
Absolutely. And this is why I love this process, because it was written by two men 40 years ago.
Oh, that's right.
Now, when I was doing grief, I had read everything. I thought I'd read everything on grief groups, and this is just my opinion. It appeared that most grief books were written by either women or gay men. These are two straight men, and I think it's John James was a Vietnam combat veteran, and it wasn't until he came back home and had a couple kids, and his second child, which was a young infant boy, died. And he could not find any help. He searched every bookstore. Nothing was helping his broken heart. So these straight men created this grief recovery method. And I think it works beautiful with men because, as you know, the exercises that we do works with some graphing, and men love to graph. And but you're right, men, it's challenging for men to want to talk about their feelings like that. And that's why I think this tool makes it so useful. I had somebody in my group that had been in prison probably longer than he'd been alive for about 30 years. And he took the class because his wife wanted him to take the class. He didn't want to take the class. He shared very clearly, I don't talk about feelings. In fact, if I was in prison and I talked about my feelings, I wouldn't be sitting here. Oh my God, did he open up? Like, it was so beautiful, his expressions and how he could access his feelings. I was blown away.
Right. Right. No, it's true. I've worked in the prisons, not only teaching guitar, but I also did the Alternative to Violence program, and that is an unbelievable program. I wanted to get it into the schools through my nonprofit. I really firmly believe in the work. I think when we drop what they call the water line from Challenge Day workshops, when they drop the water line, like and go to that 80% that we keep tucked down, and don't show that percentage. When we open that heart center, that is where the real healing starts. And with this program in particular, you get us to drop into that very meticulously, and in a process that is, can you kind of go through a general idea of how the program works for folks? And then I do want to include your two workshops and talk about them coming up. Can you talk about the processes a little bit? Not to give it away too much, of course you can't, but
Of course, thank you. Well, I hand out a class syllabus, so you'll know each week what we'll be doing. There's homework given out every week also. And so I think that is very helpful. The first couple of weeks, we're going to talk about those myths that we've all grown up with. So some of those, you've heard people say maybe 2 years to you, it's just going to take time,
Mhm.
just going to take time, and you'll get over it. Or keep busy, different kind of myths that we've all heard like that, it and other ones. And then so we talk about those myths. We talk about, is there truth to that? We talk about Dr. Kubler-Ross's 5 phases of grief. Is there truth to that? Because the authors have a different opinion about Dr. Kubler-Ross's 5 phases of grief. And so we're going to explore that in the class. Then we're going to talk about those short-term energy relieving behaviors that you mentioned, what we do to cover up our grief, whether it's drinking, gambling, Facebook, social media, just to keep busy so we don't have to think. Now, some of those we need to do it, don't we, to navigate our life? We need to eat. It's nice to have a margarita one here and there. But we have to look at what is the purpose of doing that. And I'll got to tell you from a personal experience, I've done those unconsciously, not even aware it was creating a habit. And through this class, I was able to really give myself some look at, take a mirror up and say, what am I doing to cover up my feelings? And so the first thing is to bring awareness into what we're doing so we can have that opportunity to say, you know what, that doesn't serve me. I'm going to look at other ways to deal with my emotions. So we talk about that. Then what we do is we're going to look at all the losses in our lives, all the major losses in our lives, because what we're going to find out is there's a pattern usually how we react to those losses in our lives, whether it's a loss of childhood dreams, or it's a loss of if it's a trauma in our life, or relationship breakup, or deaths, or whatever those traumas are. So we can take a look at that kind of a timeline on those traumas, to look at that pattern and see how we reacted. And I got to tell you, one of the wonderful things I love about this class is the group work. Because in group, I know for myself, you could be in the class, Joelyn, and you could be sharing something that's in your heart. And oh my gosh, I've had that same experience too. But because
Yes.
it's buried, I haven't been thinking about it. But because you brought it up, I can bring it up
Mhm.
and I can look at it. We know if we bring it to the light, we can look at it and deal with it. But if we keep it in the darkness, it's going to stay dark.
Mhm.
And then through that, we have other processes that we continue on from that loss history graph. Then we're going to ask you to choose one relationship to work on. And it's going to be a relationship that has the most heat for you. We're not going to ask you to do an easy one. And my job as a facilitator is to be your coach, to make sure that you complete it. Because many times when we do this work, I know I've said it myself, oh, I don't really want to go to class as a student. But I make myself do that. So my job as a coach is to make sure you don't run. And I'm here to support
Wonderful.
you. I check in with my students usually during the week just to see how they're doing, because it does bring up a lot of feelings.
It sure does. And I love how you mentioned, I do remember what was pivotal was when you put us in the small groups and someone brings up something, all of a sudden, the identity of it happened to you? Oh, it happened to me. And you realize we're more alike than different. It doesn't matter who or what you are, I don't care. Grief is universal and it happens to us all. Wow. That's great. I'm looking forward to this. Now you have two classes and they're coming up, and the you have them both starting when?
I have the classes start next week. I have a Tuesday evening class from 6 to 8, and these are all on Zoom, and then a Wednesday morning class 9:30 to 11:30, and this is Pacific Standard Time. So
Right.
we're on California time for California here. And this is a 7-week class. And and I do one-on-one. I do the program one-on-one.
Hmm.
But I always share with the clients the group work. I feel you get more bang for your time.
Right,
I think
right.
it's so much, you get a lot more um, deepness as you just shared from other people sharing
Oh
too.
yes, oh yes, 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 yes.
And
I
then,
love.
and when they
Yes, go
sign
ahead.
up, it includes the book,
Okay.
comes with it, and it's $150 for the full 7 weeks, including the book.
People, it's well worth it. Okay. Now, I've got a little munchkin out there barking right now. I'm going to call her in. Can you tell them a little bit about? I've never heard this about for your pets. I have a few friends that have lost their pets. What
Oh,
great timing.
I got to tell you guys, it was October the 1st of last year. And we had gotten a cute little dog before that from Woods Humane Society. And its name was Rufus. And he was the sweetest little scruffy little dog. And but these little dogs, I've never had little dogs, they like to eat things. Well, little Rufus ate some end of a toy, and we had to take him to the vet, then the hospital for surgery. The surgery was very successful. They made a little baby incision like that to get the obstruction out. And he was just 15 months old. The doctors called, surgery was success. And we were so relieved. Oh, good. Now we can go get something to eat. About an hour and a half later, they called back and said that Rufus has stopped breathing. Now, in story short, that means he died. And I got to tell you, we drove out there, and thank God I did not have a firearm with me, because I would not be sitting here with you. I would probably be in Chino prison or some other prison, because the anger I had was
Yeah.
unbelievable. I just wanted to kill everybody there, because what came to happen was, after he got out of surgery, he was still intubated, and they did not watch him. And so when they went back 20 minutes later, he had stopped breathing. He regurgitated on, because he was still intubated. So I got to tell you, I've been doing grief work for a long time. It took me to my knees. I have never felt this pain. When my mom died, when my dad died, I probably, when my sister died when I was 24 years old, yes. But I was shocked at the pain and the hurt that I felt from this little Rufus. And I said, and I wanted a grief group. I said, I got to find a grief group. I got to find a grief group. I can't deal with it. I couldn't eat. My jaws were I couldn't, were tied. It was just not good at all. I was so surprised at the strong emotions. So I said to myself, the next grief group I'm going to do is going to be on pet loss. So that January, I did 2 pet loss classes. Again, Tuesday nights, Wednesday mornings, same as I'm doing for the adult class. And I needed it. I needed the help. And so I'm very passionate about that. Woods Humane Society in our area is supporting me in there, and to do a class for them in person later on. But I'll be doing 2 classes in starting November for pet loss.
Okay. Okay. So next week classes are for humans,
Adults.
adults.
Yeah.
And then you've got the animal one coming in November,
Hmm.
which I got to get a poster for that because I have a few friends who have lost their dogs, and I have. And I have 2 pictures and their little paw prints of the boys I lost a few years back. So, they don't last as long, but as you know, we care about them. This is Bella. I don't know
Oh,
if you
let's
can
see
see her.
little Bella's face.
Oh, there she is.
Oh, that's adorable. Sweet one.
My friends almost lost her sister last night. We were out looking for her, but her sister came back, so we're all happy about that. But Bella, you're cool.
You're sweet. And
Well,
that's the thing with our pet loss, is so many people, when they do have a pet loss, they feel they can't share that with other people,
right,
especially when they've had a human loss. And from
right.
my own experience, our animals are such love bugs.
Yes.
They're there always for us unconditionally. They don't, the worst that they do is maybe chew up your sock or a shoe. or go potty in the house, and that's about it. But other than that, they are so unconditional love. So when we do lose our companion like that, it's devastating.
Right. And it's interesting. We can look in the eyes and see their perfection when you really love an animal better than we can do with our significant others sometimes or our children. So, yes, I know how my little pups have been, and they're my friends. They're my friend, companion. Okay, Diann, we've got some great classes coming up. I really want to get the word out. People, this is really exciting. I highly recommend you take advantage of this class. If you're dealing with any kind of like on wrestling, especially nowadays with what we've got going on in this world. 3 years now, there is higher rates of suicide. Children are definitely feeling the crux of these last couple years, as well as adults, concerning the downfall of just what is there in our future. I think our future is quite bright, and I look at different alternatives to find that, and this is one of them. This is an alternative to what is usually out there that can actually, I believe, Diann, transform you into coming back to who you really are. I can't explain it. So I highly recommend that you take this class if you can get in. I'm sure it's going to fill up quickly. And let's see if there's anything here. I want to make sure I got this in. Yes, we hit all the points I really wanted to. Is there any last things? I'm going to make sure that your flyer is in the description so people can get it, and I'll probably post it again on the media centers. But is there any things that you would like to add?
Well, probably I just want to let all your listeners know, do not let the costs of the program stop you from saying yes, because thank goodness we have some angels out there that would be willing to sponsor anybody that needs this program.
That's great. That is wonderful. Okay, this is Joelyn from WonHeart TV, where I'm trying to bring you things that I do a little bit of the research, and then I interview if I can get them interviewed. And I got lucky with Diann, Reverend Diann, excuse me, and today about her program. So it's all about the mind, body, heart connection. I have some videos on oneheartinfo.org if you want to go there. On children as well, and on our planet. It's up to us. We are the ones we've been looking for. So let's do these changes and make ourselves into the humans we were meant to be. Diann, thank you all for tuning in today. On the flyer, I just want to remind you that I will have posted in the description. There is the contact information you can find there for Diann, and anything else that you need to find out regarding this class. Thank you again, Diann. It was lovely to have you. I look forward to meeting you in person. I feel like I already know you, though. So, all right, y'all. Stay true. Peace. Love you all. And we'll see you soon. All righty. Bye-bye.